Hey, GW here. Hey, listen, just wanted to talk about a forgotten movie from the 90s, and you guys probably missed it. It was a box office failure, apparently, and that's because the majority of the fans it was trying to hit, it didn't connect with. The other problem is that it had to deal with wrestling. So, the only thing I could figure is that people looked at wrestling as fake. However, if you were alive in the early 90s, which if you're watching this, you probably were. You remember those David Arquette, phone commercials, dial 1-800-CALLATT and have a big phone and said dial down the middle? That wasn't by chance. WCW actually hired him. Of course, WCW was known for throwing money at celebrities like there's nothing. They paid Master P an astronomical amount to come in here and he didn't even wrestle. So my point is that right off the bat you could tell what kind of an organization this was, and it was trying to compete with WWE. This film that I'm about to talk about is notable for one thing, and it set the tone for what would later become WWE Pictures. You guys might remember that. I don't know if they're making anything new, but they did The Marine, The Condemned, 12 Rounds. Triple H had one called, I think, Out of Bounds or something. But they did launch their own studio, WWE Studios. And it did pretty well. Most of the titles do go to home video, but this is the big one. This is the one that started it all. And I remember seeing this in the theater, Moraine Point, as a matter of fact. And it stars David Arquette, Oliver Platt. And if you don't know Oliver Platt, you guys should check out Chicago Med. It's on Wednesdays on NBC. Of course, now they've taken a break, but you guys can go and watch reruns. And Scott Caan, who you guys don't know, he was on Varsity Blues as Tweeter. David Arquette, obviously he is best known now for is the deathmatch wrestling incident with Nick Gage. So wrestling has always been a part of his blood. Anyway, we're going to get right into the movie. WCW was trying to compete with WWE. And in a move to sort of capitalize on the wrestling movement, Warner Brothers, I forgot who put it out. Warner Brothers decided to get in touch with WCW and try to boost their product. Now, this movie does feature appearances by Sting, Goldberg, Macho Man Randy Savage, and a few others. And what this film is about, it's a dumb comedy, guys. It is about Gordy and Sean, two lifelong WCW wrestling fans. Of course, they never actually, I think, named the promotion. Yes, they do. I'm sorry. They go to Nitro, Monday Night Nitro. And basically, they are thrown for a loop when their hero, Jimmy King, gets taken out by Diamond Dallas Page. Now, again, if you follow the WCW timeline, Diamond Dallas Page has never, ever, ever did a heel turn. By the way, you can catch him on A&E Wrestling, AEW Wrestling. It's on Wednesdays, TNN On Demand. Check it out. But they are shocked when their hero, Jimmy King, gets taken out of action in an attack. So what do? They travel to find Jimmy King, train him, and give him motivation to take on Diamond Dallas Page. And the film is slapsticky, it's dumb, it's crude humor, and it's probably not going to appeal to anybody. Unless you have a very low sense of humor. You know, Simpsons, South Park, it'll appeal to you. The culmination of this thing, the climax of the film, takes place in a triple cage where Jimmy King has to face Diamond Dallas Page and ensue, like any wrestling match WCW has put on, the whole entire roster comes in to do a run-in, and it's pretty clear that, like in real life WCW, the writers didn't know what to do at the end of this film. However, that doesn't not necessarily make it not fun. This is a movie that if you find in a bargain bin for $2, get it, because the DVD, from what I understand, is a rarity. Anyways, so getting back to this triple cage, I will try to find video and post it on there, and because I know some people, it came up in a conversation today, and I just wanted to let people know what exactly we're dealing with. It was WCW's one of their biggest attractions, and it was only used, I think, twice, maybe 3 times, I'm not sure. But at the time this movie was made, creative differences and things, it didn't do anything for WCW except put them on the map as being the first wrestling promotion to sort of throw it in WWE's face and say, look, we made a movie. That being said, the movie is not all bad. It's just dumb and it's teen, teen slapsticky, and it has the sense of humor that a 2-year-old would appreciate. I mean, Gordy and Sean are not bright guys, but they are fun to watch, if only for an hour and a half. So the triple cage was actually utilized in WCW, and it was actually put in a storyline where David Arquette actually won the world title. This is the one thing that everybody can agree on that actually killed WCW. The finger poke of doom would have been fine, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll try to add that to the watch list. But putting David Arquette, someone who has no wrestling experience, and putting a championship title on him to promote a movie is not necessarily a good thing. But, like I said, years later, out of it came out WWE Films. With the Marine, The Condemned Part 2, 12 Rounds, which was an awesome film. See No Evil with Kane, slasher movies. These were all good films. And like I said, I don't know if anything else is coming down through the works. Trish Stratus even had a movie, but I don't think it was done by WWE Films. In any event, this triple cage match, it was just a drawing attraction, and it built a lot of heat between Diamond Dallas Page and the champion Jeff Jarrett, and it was a fun match to watch, but there was a swerve at the end. Arquette won the title, obviously, and WCW really started to descend. So the movie really didn't propel WCW. If anything, it dragged it down, but it's not... I wouldn't necessarily say it's the director's fault, the writer's fault. I would think it's just the way that WCW is going the direction. But like I said, this DVD is hard to find. And I had a hell of a time getting it. My buddy Charlie, who worked up at FYE, searched high and low for this thing and finally got it for me. So, like I said, it is worth checking out because it is a rarity. And I think I was the only person in the theater saw it. And again, I was a WWF guy. I didn't care about WCW. But after watching this, it was pretty good. And to see Oliver Platt play Jimmy King, is a step different than his Chicago Med appeal. Chicago Med, guys, he's a psychiatrist, and he has the answer for everything. But in this, you get to see a different side of him. That being said, the movie's not exactly, like I said, it didn't exactly do anything, but the marketing campaign was a genius. It almost made you want to go wrestle when you saw the trailer for this. I mean, you just wanted to break out and, throw down with your buddy and do a Macho Man Randy Savage off the top rope. I mean, that's what you wanted to do. The one thing that I will tell you about this movie is, being that it was released, I think 2000, something like that. The one thing, let's see, was it 2000, 2001? Let me look. Sometime 2000, I was right. There was no NWO. And that was one of the other things WCW was criticized for, was having the NWO in everything. This was also a time that creative geniuses behind the wrestling promotions were switching up. Eric Bischoff was taking off, Vince Russo was coming out, and neither one of them could save the ship. But there is no NWO in this picture, which to some people was a saving grace. I would have liked to just see them backstage huddled up. It would have made them another reference to WCW, but that's neither here nor there. As far as the triple cage goes, it was WCW's answer to Hell in a Cell. And it worked. It was used, I think, a couple of times in War Games. And this movie, like I said, it was mediocre at best. It didn't do much, but it did it did touch on the fact that you can take a wrestling company and put it on film, as a fictional entity. This was not the first wrestling movie to be made. If you guys remember, and I don't know how many people do, in 1980 there was a movie called Body Slam. It starred Roddy Piper, and it really captured the cartoonish era of the rock and roll wrestling era, which if you go back, there was a cartoon show on WWE and it got pulled. Not going to name names, but you guys can look it up, and Hulk Hogan was in it, and it starred Hulk Hogan, Hillbilly Jim, and Junkyard Dog as good guys, taking on Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, and Roddy Piper. And, really crazy, wacky adventures, and it was pulled. Because that's around the time the Hulk Hogan scandal came around. But you can check it out. But Body Slam was the first movie to be made. No Holds Barred came in after that. This was number 3, and it really sort of put WWE on its heels by WCW saying they could make a movie. Then, of course, when WCW fell, the first movie that got released was The Marine with John Cena. So without this movie, I do not think you would have WWE Films. So I'm going to try to find that triple cage match between David Arquette, Diamond Dallas Page, and Jeff Jarrett, and I'm going to try to put it on there. And like I said, it's a dumb movie, but it's worth mentioning it's a footnote. So you guys can check it out. Let me know if it's even out there. I haven't done any checks. I know that at the time I did get it, it was very, very hard to find. So maybe, maybe it'll be brought back, or maybe it'll be on a variety pack of 10 movies or something like that. So that's my take on Ready to Rumble.